Aoife, thank you so much for agreeing to talk to me today. I'm going to get straight in and ask you, could you tell us what the daily life of a veterinary nurse is like?
Yeah, sure. So it's very varied with vet nursing. So in the morning time, we admit all the animals, any animals that are in for day procedures like surgeries like neutering and spays. We admit all of them, do all the paperwork. Then what happens is we get the weights of the animals. We do like temperature checks, the vet checks them. And then normally what happens is we sedate them, put them in their kennel area, and do jobs like bloods and just lab work until the animals are ready to be prepped for surgery. After that, they'll go into surgery and we'll stay in surgery, just depending on how many animals are in surgery. It could be maybe an hour, some days it could be 4 or 5 hours. After that, then they go through their procedure and then they go back to the kennel areas and we monitor them for another couple of hours. They get to go home then in the evening time. And again, we have more paperwork, unfortunately. And that's when in the evening time we'll do more kind of admin stuff as well. Again, we'll go back and do this lab work to be done in the evening times as well. And at that time, we kind of go into the office and we take phone calls from people, just general kind of small animal questions and things like that.
Wow, okay, so it seems that it's fairly varied between like actually working with the animals and doing things like the procedures you mentioned and then doing like admin work as well. And it's really interesting because Kate was talking to us and she's obviously a primary school teacher and she was talking about all of the admin work that's necessary for that. So that might be an aspect of vet nursing that people are really unaware of, do you think?
Definitely, yeah. I think a lot of people think it's just dealing with animals all day and that there is no paperwork and that there is no reception, but there is. I mean, it depends on what clinic you go to, but the clinic that I work in, we would do like a lot of surgeries throughout the day. So the admin work isn't that much, but I know in other clinics like that are busier and they might do more specialized surgeries, that's kind of where you have more admin work. Mm-hmm. But it's not hard by any means. Mm-hmm. And again, it's varied, like, so it's interesting.
Mm-hmm. And so do most of the animals that come into you, are they coming in for procedures like surgeries or something else?
Yeah, it depends. Some of them come in because they're sick and they need to be maybe kept on fluids and they might need other kind of other procedures like scans and bloods. And there is then obviously the day patients that come in just for your regular standard surgeries, like dentals and castrates and neutrals and things like that. But with the other animals that are coming in that are sick, that can take up quite a lot of your time, of your day, let's say. So it's kind of hard to know how your day is going to go until you see what's coming in. But again, that's the good thing about vet nursing, is that it's every day is so varied, and it does keep it really, really interesting.
And you probably don't notice the time passing. It's not one of those jobs where you're stuck in the one spot looking at the clock waiting to clock off, really, because you're kept going by the sounds of it.
Exactly, like the day flies. Like you look at the clock, it's 10 o'clock, and then you look again and it's 5. You're like, happy days sometime.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's always a good thing. So Aoife, what got you into vet nursing? Did you always know that you wanted to be a vet? Did you love animals? What was your sort of reasoning for getting into this particular career?
So I've always loved animals. Like since I was really young, I've always had all different types of animals. Like all my friends would be like, oh, it's like the Flynn farm. Like we literally have everything. So from a really young age, I was interested. Then as I got older, I was like, what kind of careers can I do that have, that are, animal based? And that's when I started kind of looking into vet nursing. And I kind of had a look at veterinary as well. But I thought I would be more suited to do vet nursing.
Okay, so can you talk to me about training, so to be a vet nurse? What did that entail?
Yeah, so I went to college in Cork and I went for 2 years. The training, it depends on what college you go to. So the training that I had would have been a lot of clinical kind of training, so I would have been in practice quite a lot. I know, I think it's at UCD, I think there's kind of a lot of like college work where you're in college and you're doing maybe tutorials and stuff and not so much practical. But that's where I got most of my training, was actually being in the clinic itself.
Okay, so that's really interesting. So you spent a lot of time actually being, so for teachers, it's like being out on teaching practice. So you training to be a vet nurse, you actually spent a lot of time out in different vets, basically, veterinary centres, doing your practice there. Is that right?
Yeah, so you're kind of given the option in college of what vets you want to go to, because I mean, some vet nurses want to specialize in orthopedics, so a lot of them would do their work experience in orthopedic based clinics. So I just did them in a load of different clinics, as I wasn't too sure what I wanted to do. So that's how I got trained, is just going from clinic to clinic, just learning different protocols and on how they did things. Just was very interesting.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. So some people specialize, like you said, in orthopedics. Are there other areas that veterinary nurses can specialize in, or can you be like a general veterinary nurse as well?
There's loads of different kind of areas that you can branch off into with vet nursing. I mean, I have a couple of friends that went and did canine physiotherapy afterwards. I'm currently doing a nutrition course at the moment, so I can do like companion animal nutrition consults. I mean, you can definitely, there's so many like routes you can take with vet nursing. I think that's the great thing about it. There is other nurses, I think, that are trying to get more into like maybe doing more x-rays and things like that, so they're doing courses on x-rays so they can get into a clinic with orthopedics just to do solely the orthopedic work. But I think as time goes on, I think nurses are definitely branching out a lot more, which is, it's just really, really good as well.
And why are so many people interested in orthopedics? Do you know?
I guess because it's so different. I mean, each case, whereas when you have like your regular like spay and neuters, like it's not what's the word, like it wouldn't be overly interesting day every single day, you know. Whereas I think when you're doing an orthopedics, it's way more specialized and you need more training. And I think a lot of people are kind of, a lot of nurses are kind of going towards orthopedic clinics, because also there's more money in orthopedic clinics, so the pay will be a little bit better and things like that.
Oh, okay, right. Okay, so that's really interesting. So one of the questions that I was going to ask you was about opportunities for career advancement. So I think you've kind of answered that already. So the reason why I ask this question is because a lot of people, even though they might know when they're young that they want to be a veterinary nurse, they also kind of like having an idea at the back of their head that I don't have to do this forever. There's another route, or I can specialize in another area or in another field or something like that. So is there, and it sounds like there is, opportunities for career advancement in veterinary nursing?
Definitely, and I think with recent years it's been getting much better, because I think what used to happen was when nurses qualify, they go into a clinic and they just stay nursing, and I think people were starting to leave because they were like, you know, what are we going to do, like where can we go from here? So colleges started opening more courses, and it's called CPD courses is what we have to do. We have to get a certain amount of points every year, and these companies came in and they kind of offered a whole range of courses for vet nurses to do, which was fantastic. So a lot of people took on board, you know, wanted to maybe do a step higher. So some of them went and decided, you know, that they wanted to go be a head vet nurse, and other people wanted to do practice management. So there is definitely different routes you can take that way. And physio is becoming very big at the moment in Ireland. So I think people are kind of going down that road of doing physio as well. Which is great. So there definitely is more kind of routes opening for vet nurses.
That's really interesting. Do you have to do CPD? Is that what you said, or is it optional?
Yeah, and you have to do CPD. So it's what it is it's you have to get 12 points every year. So you can get them from training in a student, or going to obviously the CPD seminars, there's webinars, there's loads of different things that you can get your points with. It's a bit daunting at the start, because you're like, oh my god, where am I going to get 12 points from? Because sometimes you go to webinars and they might only give you like half a point. But they're definitely making it way easier to get points, especially if you go to like conferences and stuff. There could be up to like 10 points for a conference.
Okay. It's kind of like in teaching, if you do CPD courses in primary school teaching, you get EPV days. So you get 3 EPV days a year, which means that you get 3 basically days off a year. So that's kind
Oh,
of,
nice.
yeah, how you get rewarded with it. You don't get anything like that, do you? You don't get any days off, do you?
No, unfortunately not. Oh, that'd be nice.
Yeah. You never know. You can talk to your union about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so you brought up an interesting point there about like the pay. So is the pay better if you do certain CPD courses or if you specialize in a certain field? And if it is, can you give us an indication, a general indication of what that difference might be?
Yeah. I think if you go into orthopedic clinics, you do get a little bit more money, so you might be starting out on a little bit more. I think starting off maybe in and around you could be doing 20,000. Depending on the clinic again on what they specialize in, you could go up to 40, and then if you did something like head vet nurse or practice manager, you could go up to maybe 45. It's really, really varied, I think. But yeah, I think in and around that anyways.
And it's probably varied, like you said, according to the practice or the clinic that you go to, because like unlike teaching, any type of teaching, whether it's primary or second level or higher ed, there's a general pay bracket, because we're paid by the state. So it's very easy to identify what a teacher is going to be on with X number of years experience. But obviously it probably does vary, not only according to what kind of experience you have and what kind of CPD you have or training you have, but also the clinic. They're probably going to pay differently depending on the clinic too. Would that be right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think like other like clinics in Dublin obviously would be paying a lot more. But definitely, yeah, I think another thing I think with vet nursing is that the pay was never kind of great to start with, but I think because there's a kind of a union going at the moment, it's after getting much better.
Good, yeah, and we see that in a lot of different careers as well. I know even things like childcare, the pay has like historically been quite low, but there's a big massive push, to get people the pay that they essentially deserve for the work that they're doing. Yeah, so it would be great to see that, definitely. Okay, so could you give us maybe, you obviously really love your work, which is great, but could you talk to us maybe about the pros and cons of being a vet nurse?
Yeah, I think the biggest con of vet nursing is just dealing with like animals being put to sleep. I mean, it happens every day, unfortunately. That is really, really difficult, I think, to deal with, especially when you're just qualified and you're like, oh my God, like this is so sad. You try to keep it together and be professional, but that can be difficult. And I think sometimes depending on the clinic that you go to, like the hours can be quite long, and with some clinics you have to do on call work, so really unsociable hours, depending on where you go. I guess another kind of aspect of it is that like people with animals that obviously don't know what's going on with them if they're very sick, and I think sometimes they might maybe not want to spend money on the animal as such. They can be like, oh, that's a lot of money, my GP is only €40, why are you charging me 45? So I think sometimes people can get quite annoyed, and unfortunately the vet nurse is normally the first person that they'll meet when they're either discharging the animal or bringing through the animal. So sometimes that can be a little bit difficult to deal with as well. But definitely I think the pros outweigh the cons anyways.
Yeah, I think those are really good points to make, and it's something that people probably need to like be aware of, the whole fact that there can be unsociable hours, and again that what you mentioned about like the kind of like the customer service aspect of it and getting potentially used by customers or whatever could be an issue as well. So if someone wanted to be or was thinking about becoming a vet nurse, and they're in secondary school at the moment, like what kind of qualities do you think they need? Should they like have had a love of animals from a young age? Should they have an interest in like subjects like biology, or is that not relevant?
I think definitely an interest in animals. I think biology definitely does come into it. And it's funny actually when I talked to a couple of my vet nursing friends, and like I was asking them like, oh, like what like subjects did you do in school and stuff. A lot of them did biology, but some of them love lab work, and the people that love the lab work are people that like love biology. But I mean, you don't necessarily have to do biology in order to do vet nursing, like, but yeah, I think definitely a love of animals, someone that's caring, hardworking, and yeah, I think that's definitely number one. I think is a love of animals, because as great as it is, it can be very difficult working with, you know, like aggressive dogs and things like that, and someone who's going to have a lot of patience, definitely.
Okay, yeah, patience, yeah, that
Yeah.
reminds me of the qualities you need to have as a primary school teacher as well. You need to have patience.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily always have it. Okay, and so finally, what would you consider the pros of the job to be?
The pros, I think definitely like job satisfaction, like when you have an animal that has maybe been in for like a couple of days or even weeks, and then they finally get to go home, it's like it's just the best feeling, because you're bringing them out to see their family that have been just so worried about them, and just to see them so happy. I think that is definitely like amazing. I love that side of it. Obviously puppies, like that's the best thing ever. I love working with puppies and kittens. And again, the varied workload, I mean, every single day is different. Like no one day is going to be the same, which is fantastic. And then again, career progression, like, I mean, being able to, you know, decide if you want to do a nutrition course or if you want to do, you know, an anesthetic course. I mean, there's definitely ways to go and do them courses, and it's nice that, you know, you can kind of continue on with training,
Yes.
which I think is a great part of the career.
Yeah, very good. And just before we finish up, so you mentioned that you yourself are doing a nutrition course, is that right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what does that involve?
Yeah, so I'm going to be starting it next week. So it's a year-long course. Basically, I'll be studying canine and feline nutrition. So all aspects from puppy to geriatric, and then it'll be kind of going into detail about conditions, how to tailor a diet towards, you know, a dog that maybe might have kidney disease or liver disease. So I'll be eventually be able to do my own consults with clients, kind of tailoring up you know, a diet for their pet, and it would just kind of involve them coming in to the practice a little bit more. We'd be doing weigh-ins and checks like that, which is, it's all very new, because as far as I know, there's only like 2 or 3 canine and feline nutritionists in Ireland. Wow. So I think people are definitely getting more into it, which is pretty good too.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting, because like even us as humans, we're starting to learn how important nutrition is, you know, for your mental health, even, like, as opposed to just physical health. So that sounds great. Yeah, that there is a scope or an area for vet nurses and others like you to get involved in, because obviously it sort of contributes to the overall holistic health of the animal if their diet is good. So that sounds amazing.
Yeah, no, I'm actually really excited. I've been like wanting to do it for so long, and then I was like, you know what, I'll just do it this year with lockdown going on and everything. It makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah, so presumably we're doing everything online, will you?
Yeah, it's all online,
Okay.
which is totally fine. I'll be doing like exams once a month, and then at the end of the year, then I'll have the final exam. So fingers crossed.
Best of luck. So like you said, for people who are interested in vet nursing, yeah, the ability to work hard is definitely a must. And I suppose like maybe if people are sounding or think, or, you know, are a little bit kind of like daunted by this, they don't necessarily have to go on and do these courses. You know, if they're happy to say qualify, they don't have to do it. But again, like you said, it's nice to have those opportunities, so you don't sort of become like stagnated in your role. Like yesterday we were talking to an engineer, an aircraft engineer, and he was basically talking about the same thing, how, you know, it's nice to be able to change things up in your role, so that, you know, you're given new challenges and you can progress in different areas, and ultimately like enjoy your job that little bit more, because like you said, if you're in the exact same role for 20, 30, 40 years, you're going to get bored and you're going to leave. So I think that's definitely
100%. Yeah, and I mean, like, I have a lot of friends that are, you know, have just stayed vet nursing and just regular small animal clinics, and they're so happy to do that. But then, you know, like for me, I think it's about you know, staying interested in it and kind of opening, you know, kind of more doors for me as well. And a lot of my other friends as well, you know, would go on and do different courses, which is fantastic as well, because it just makes it a little bit more interesting, you know, when you're not kind of doing the same kind of stuff day in and day out.
Absolutely, excellent. Okay, so Aoife, we will wrap it up there. I want to say thank you so much for coming on and talking to us
No
again.
problem.
Obviously, if anyone wants to ask Aoife any questions, they can pop them in the comment section below, and both yourself and myself will be moderating it. If you don't see it, I'll fire you off a text or something and let you know there's a question and I can't answer. Is that okay with you, Aoife?
Perfect, yeah, no problem.
Okay, that's great. Well, thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Take care.